Hi, welcome. It's an absolute pleasure today to be sitting amongst August women here and just been part of a discussion. And of course, it is Women's Day, and I believe that it is a Women's Day every day. And just as Sadhna mentioned, that I am happy to be biologically born a woman. And I am happy that I am not a man. Because the Almighty has gifted me certain features biologically which differentiate me and which I nurture and which I am happy to be in within my own skin. So today the topic of discussion from my end shall predominantly be focusing upon women and the aspects of their personal, professional, especially health life, which has been impacted during the corona phase, and how do we take it forward and how do we look at it from the post-pandemic era perspective. I personally feel that the post-pandemic era has yet not arrived and we are still in a very nascent and young phase of vaccination drive, but still that is our goal, and why should it not be so? So when the lockdown happened in India in March, do you know that the lockdown which was imposed under a Disaster Management Act? And traditionally, a disaster management means that you would be catering to things like floods, cyclones, earthquakes, or even wars. But this time round, it was a new category which was formulated for a disease. That was corona, a communicable disease. But what did it really lead to? Somewhere along the line, corona pandemic became a disaster for feminism as well. There was much hue and cry about physical stress and the physical disease. Many of us did not, luckily, fortunately, suffer from corona. So we did not have the burden of the physical disease, but we carried with us a fear and apprehension and unpredictableness of emotional stress, financial stress, economic stress, digital stress, information pandemic, info pandemic, and so much so for students' academic stress and social stress. But this virus brought out certain factors amongst the society. A society where we in our constitution talk about equality, where we have been talking about gender equality, woman empowerment. But what did it bring about? It brought to light an amplification of gender inequality. It brought to us the further deepening patriarchy, the further deepening sexual division of labor and the gender gap. And it brought it to our face that again, there was relegation of women in their gendered roles as caregivers. So this widening of gap was further perpetuated with loss of jobs, either of the woman or her family members. So working women and job layoffs became much more impactful amongst women, and amongst the women further on, those which were in the insecure sector and in the informal sector. But there were those women, particularly in the rural area, who were impacted because of certain subset of sectors in which women predominantly in India work. And those sectors are basically 5 sectors of agriculture, health, paid domestic work, and manufacturing. 80% of our women workforce is in that sector. And 63% of that is actually involved in agriculture. On the other hand, we also found that there was significant domestic and sexual violence. India per se, even in the pre-corona era, had 1 in 3 women reporting domestic violence, either proactively or through active surveys. Would you believe it? United Nations reported that worldwide, there was a 23% escalation in domestic violence in the first 3 months. I'm not here talking about math, about facts, figures, statistics, but to relate to certain things. and the depth of the topic, I need to highlight these facts because you know what happened during Corona times, that in a family, most of the time the domestic violence was through the perpetrator, who was actually your husband or the male member in the family, and they were now not going out for work. They were actually either they had lost out on work, or they had a pay cut, they had a job loss, or they were confined to work from home, and there was limited space. We are all used to our silos, we are all used to our space. Even for a housewife, homemaker, when the members of the family go out to work, or the child goes out to work, there is a me time for her. So somewhere everybody was entrapped within the same space. There were loss of barriers, and therefore the perpetuation of domestic violence with frustration of job loss, space, unpredictability, fear actually escalated a whole lot. And add to this sexual violence with the very person that you are living in with no escape. Now, where and why did I mention that? When I bring in sexual aspects, I bring in reproductive health. Because if you are entrapped and your means of recreation can lead to procreation, that is, you can become pregnant, whether voluntarily or due to sexual violence. And in the times when there was a sudden breakdown in basic essential services which were cut down or closed, like family planning, contraception, safe abortion, delays in pregnancy. Imagine you've conceived, say pre-corona, and you don't want to continue with the pregnancy, and now there is no way that you can really go and fearlessly and to the right person to actually get the abortion done within the stipulated safe period. Likewise, you could have been pregnant before Corona and during Corona, and there was a phase, in the acute phase of lockdown and containment zones, where you really didn't know where to go for your antenatal checkup, for example, a follow-up ultrasound. I, being a gynecologist, know very well. So let me share with you all people that I must have done about 100 to 150 odd shows, which were completely philanthropic, and they were for the common man, particularly the women. And I did so many shows through National Service Scheme, Women Development Cells, certain NGOs, Ghar Baitho India Movement, Peak India Digital, etc., wherein through social platform I could reach in each show an audience of potentially up to 50 to 60K, and they would post their health questions and I would answer online for hours. And I even opened my telephone lines as well as my emails for them to call and for me to give them advice, and this still continues. Why was I doing that? Because there was a need. It was not about education, it was about hand holding and support. It was about stress. I talked about stress help tips. I talked about mindfulness, being mindful of where you are, what you're doing, of music therapy. So going ahead, this disaster led to something which is very unexpected. The Corona pandemic was not gender biased. The Corona pandemic did not choose gender inequality. However, when this crisis happened, we were gender insensitive. And what happened was that the series of events and things that I have relayed to you, now today that I address in this post-COVID era, or the evolving post-COVID era, is the imminent and pertinent need to bring in gender responsiveness to the woman, to her entire world of work, across her duties from domestic to professional. And this would need a crisis cushioning, a gender sensitive, gender responsive crisis cushioning. And that would mean that we need to build back better beyond COVID-19. So we are today supported not just by the United Nations or the G20 countries or India, but the world today is looking at it. The entire progress brought in a picture which startled us. So came in the Sustainable 2030 Developmental Goals, which was stated in the Beijing Platform for Action. And what were these goals? It was just to build back better beyond COVID-19 for us women. So what did we do? We needed now pathways and policies for gender responsive recovery. United Nations gave its women policy brief. And of course, we looked at recovery packages. India did also give an economic relief package, but was it gender sensitive? And what do I mean by recovery packages? I mean that if you've lost your job or you're in debt, then there could be greater fiscal space. There could be debt relief, there could be cancellation of the debt, there can be increased global liquidity via special drawing rights. We need to invest in gender responsive budgeting. Whether the investment is in legislation or whether the investment is to support women entrepreneurship for sustainable development. Why? Because if the next time things like that happen, we need to preserve women's jobs. We need to generate new, decent, environmentally sustainable jobs for them. It should not just crash land, should it? We need to make sure that the micro, small, medium enterprises and the self-help groups that we talk about, they need to be supported with both public and social infrastructure. And the need that emerged is not a word that has come up for the first time, but it has come up with a thrust. That is to collect and disseminate sex disaggregated data. Because we need to bring in what Sadhna just mentioned, social safety nets. I quite agree. Why did I mention rural India? It's the majority. Why did I mention that 80% of the women are in agriculture? This is because they need to have robust social assistance, that is cash, food support. They need to have social insurance programs, that is pensions, health, unemployment for vulnerable women. And of course, we did talk about extended paid parental leave, childcare facilities, benefits, that goes without saying. And these issues get addressed. But you see, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's own courage, doesn't it? So when it comes to domestic violence or sexual violence, we need to, of course, have protection services which include reporting, shelters, justice, and long-term essential services. But over and above this, we need to give them health services. If something like this happens, they need to be provided with maternal, sexual, reproductive, and HIV-related services in a very infection-controlled environment. And I would say that there's been a disproportionate economic. Have we lost the connection?
No, you are clearly audible.
Okay, Saina, thank you. So, as I said, the sharpest fall has been in employment for women, and the women's economic recovery really lagged behind. So, I feel, as a gynecologist, women are dynamic, women are flexible, women are adaptive. When we look at the white-collar women, when we look at the women in the urban sector, I think geographically, if we don't have to jump between different locations and different tasks, and we are centered in one place, and we have flexi timings, and we have work from home, actually on one end, we got benefited and empowered with a word known as convenience. So I would say that, of course, every challenge gives you an opportunity, and every opportunity comes through possibilities. So as a woman, I would say, remember who you are, and the game shall change for you. So I personally feel that each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all the women. Each time a woman raises her voice is the voice of all the women. So the amplification of the voice of women in COVID era, when stressed, when distressed, when pushed, has led to this awareness, which is a very pertinent point of jumping back with a thrust. Even when a baby is conceived, I'm an IVF specialist, and when we make a baby in a test tube and we look at the baby, and if later this baby was to put in a mother's womb and this baby was to actually get conceived and would be delivered, we would often find that there are more girls than boys. That shows our true resilience from within our genes and from within our mother's womb. And equally, when we look at the infant mortality rate, though the odds are higher for the care and the social perspective of looking down upon a girl child, but it's the girl child which has a higher 7-year survival rate vis-a-vis a male child. Again, longevity of life is higher for women than it is for men. So I would say that each time we women get together, we leave a little sparkle behind, don't we? So I would like to just conclude saying that when a woman takes care of herself, she becomes her best friend. Because she becomes the best friend of not just herself, but of her family, of her workplace colleagues, of her society, of her nation, and of course of the whole world. Thank you so much. Just adding a few aspects to what I was saying, actually, I'd like to bring to the knowledge of you all. So I am not a psychologist. I am not a stress therapy person. I am not a life coach. I am not a healer. But what am I? At the end, I started out with being a doctor. And soon I realized that, yes, if I look at myself as a person from the society and I look at things from the perspective of humanity, it's not that I am talking about this because I'm a woman. I am talking about this because I feel that there are the men and the women. And whenever I have had a look at the sex ratio, whenever I've had a look at the literacy ratio, and I see a skew in Kerala and I see a skew towards Haryana. I see a skew towards northeastern states and I see a skew towards Bihar. And I as an Indian, I envision, and I have always laid a thrust that sustainable development is well-rounded development, which has to be a development with the non-material developmental goals in place. That is equality, security, happiness, no social discrimination, and finally, respect for others and respect for your own self.